Hello. Have you ever sat down with a new group and realized halfway through the first game session that you and the players want completely different things? I had that kind of a moment, almost like a player flip the table type moment a long time ago. And actually, it's kind of funny. It's part of my OSR origin story. I would say that that was the radioactive spider bite that gave me my referee superpowers. And it is a funny story, so I will talk about it sometime. But what that incident did is it sharpened my style. I became more intentional as a referee, and it also taught me the importance of being able to articulate it. And that's where we're going to talk about today. Here's a question. Can you explain your referee style simply and in plain language to a new group of players? And I think the solution is to have a 30-second elevator pitch that you can give to every new table. So what do I mean by an elevator pitch? I'll give you an example. I play a lot of convention games. In fact, I'll be doing a couple conventions in May. And when a new group sits down, I'll say something like this. In my style, characters are mortal, combat can be deadly, and it's okay to run or retreat. I telegraph danger. I provide clues. I'm not a gotcha style DM. I do expect you to interact and immerse yourselves in the world. I care a lot more about what you describe your character is doing than any kind of bonuses or mechanical stuff that's on your character sheet. And then finally, my style is about presenting a world for you to explore. So the direction of the game is up to you. We use an XP for treasure system. So any advancement or experience you get in the game, it's going to be because you go out and do things, and it will be based on your decisions and choices. And that's it. So today we are going to look at a checklist of different attributes that will help you identify your preferences around your referee style and then how to talk about them. Welcome to my channel. My name's John. If you're new here, this is a place I like to talk about Shadow Dark, the OSR, old school D&D, and kind of the TSR era. Thanks for being here. And today's video, I guess you'd call it a reaction video. Over the course of the past few weeks, a couple of the giant Dungeontuber type channels were talking about this concept of referee style. Matt Colville, kind of a legend in DungeonTube, took a beautiful walk out in sunny California. And while he's doing it, he was talking about his definition of referee style. It was kind of like when you take away system and mechanics and setting, maybe even the players, what you're left with is your style. And then Dottie from Mystic Arts, who also did a walking video, except it looked like his was around Chile, Iceland. His definition was style, your ref style. It's not necessarily what you're good at, but it's what you're very excited about. And that the best referees are able to incorporate that into their game session as a strength or into their campaign as a strength. And I really do like both these definitions, but for our purposes, I want us to get more granular. I think referee styles exist on a spectrum, like between two different opposed poles. And to be intentional about your referee style, it's important to have a degree of self-knowledge. Like, where do you sit? Like the philosophers would say, know yourself, and then be able to communicate it and be able to articulate it. So what would a list of referee attributes look like? So here's a list of attributes I put together. This is how I look at the world. I don't expect this to be an exhaustive list. You might look at this list and say, you know what, the thing that's most important to me as a referee isn't represented here. That's fine. Let me know in the comments. This is about stimulating a conversation first and foremost. And hopefully the instrument's useful to some of you. And the other thing before we go through it, I don't view style as immutable. It can change campaign to campaign or game system to game system. I do think we have preferences that we always come back to. And even if you're running a certain type of game mechanically, like there's still certain parts of your style that are going to carry over from campaign to campaign. So let's go through these real quick. When I'm talking about scripted adventures, if you're running like those 5e hardbacks that take characters from like levels 1 to 10, or maybe an adventure path in Pathfinder terms, that would be more of a scripted or narrative adventure where the players are following a story. If you're a referee that just says, hey, here's a world, I built it, get out there and explore it, and whatever you guys decide to do, that's what the game's about, then you're on the player-driven side of the world. If your game is one where someone can open a door, step through, fall into a pit trap, and die, like within the first 5 minutes of the game session, you're probably supporting banal death, as opposed to death only happening when it serves the narrative on the heroic death side. If your players can leave the village into the troll woods and run into a troll at level 1 because they decide to go into the woods that are called the troll woods, then you're probably running a deadly encounter style game where you're expecting players to run, as opposed to the kind of game where the players are always expected to have a reasonable chance of surviving a combat. And likewise, if you've called a woods the troll woods and the villagers say, hey, be careful, there's trolls that live in there, and your players still go into the woods, you probably are on the fair warning side of the spectrum because you're telegraphing danger. You're kind of letting them know in the world where things are dangerous. If you run the kind of game where you expect the players to immerse themselves in the game world and describe in great detail what they're doing, as opposed to relying on how their characters are built, what kind of feats and talents and bonuses they have, you might be on the player skill focus side as opposed to the character build side. Now, a lot of referees find resource management is tedious, so you could be a hand waver or someone who delights in having your players track all their resources down to the last arrow or piece of ammunition or torch if you're playing Shadow Dark. Theater of the Mind is a radically different style in terms of fast, loose, imaginative combat up here, as opposed to gridded tactical combat with miniatures and 5-foot steps and bonus actions. And I would also say that if you're like part of the what's it called, Dwarven Forge group, where you've got like these elaborate terrain, then you're probably more on that tactical combat side of the world. Open rolls or hidden rolls, definitely stylistic choice. Hey, I roll in the open, what happens, happens. If he dies, he dies. As opposed to, no, I want to keep that secret because sometimes I want to overrule what the rolls say they should be. Next up, milestones versus XP for treasure. So stylistically, if you control the rate of advancement as a referee, hey, we finished this chapter, I think everybody should take a level. You'll need it before we move on to the next chapter. Hey, you're probably on the milestone part of the world. If your referee is like, hey, I'm presenting the world, you guys go out there, explore it. If you want to level up, it's up to you guys to go find the places where the treasure is. And you're probably on the XP for treasure side of the world. We've all heard about the rule of cool, rule 0, your table, your rules. If you're someone that has that view of GM authority, you're probably on that side, as opposed to, I'm just going to play by the book, interpret the rules in the moment the best way I can according to the rules. Constructed characters. If you want people coming into the game with backstories and character builds and character arcs already planned out, you're probably living in that part of the world as opposed to just random emergent characters. Yeah, throw someone together, we'll figure it out as the game goes on. Likewise, grounded versus gonzo. Yeah, if your game is the kind where Gandalf and Conan are going to team up to fight Dracula and maybe a spaceman joins them, you're probably living on the gonzo side. Likewise, serious versus social. How much do you expect your players to engage in the setting versus like beer and pretzel style, where it's okay if this guy's called Darth Soap and his partner is Lord SpongeBob or something like that. We all know players who will show up with just absolutely silly characters that can break the immersion. Well, how much do you really care? And then kind of getting down to the last couple, descriptive versus thespian. I think this is interesting. I've known a lot of dungeon masters. Maybe they're not comfortable with like voice acting or doing silly stuff, but they will describe what's going on in the world. And in some cases, they do it really well. They don't say what the king says as if they're the king, but they say the king asks you to do this thing. Very much a descriptive referee. The other side of the spectrum are those referees that are going to do funny voices and accents and maybe get up and be very dramatic. If you can modulate that tension in the game, like get in really close when things are tense and get all your players to lead it. Yeah, maybe you're more on the dramatic side of things. And then lastly, I do think there's a mindset that views the whole world there as just full of game pieces to tell the kind of story the referee wants. And then there's other referees and game systems where it's really important to the referee that they're presenting a coherent world first and foremost that's like a simulation that the player characters just happen to be part of. This is a lot. If I've missed anything, like I said, let me know in the comments. It's not really meant to be exhaustive. What would an example look like? So let's take me, like how I view my style. So I've put these green circles around the things that probably these are my most prominent attributes as a referee. Like I want a fast playing game. So I'm very much theater of the mind most of the time. Actually, I'll have maps because it does help with visualization, but usually not miniatures or tokens if it's VTT, but maps very much so for me. I want to build a world, and I'm very much an explore the world kind of style. So I rely a lot more on emergent story and an XP for treasure type mindset where the players have to plan their own capers and adventures. And also, I'm okay with keeping it light. I want to laugh at the game. It doesn't have to be all that serious. So these green boxes are probably these green boxes probably describe my style the most. Now, before we move on to building an elevator pitch out of this, if you're enjoying this content, great. Thank you for being here. Please consider subscribing to my channel. It helps me grow, keeps me on YouTube, and I appreciate it. So how could we use the ref style list to build out our elevator pitch? So first off, I'll pause here a second, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do to have a copy of this by you. Even though you may have a lot of things circled that are part of your style, I would identify maybe the 4 or 5 that are your strongest positions. Focus on like, what are those most important signals to the players? And then just translate them into plain language. How could we all pull it together for an example? For my elevator pitch, I wouldn't cover all the things that I had circled previously, even though I think those are all parts of my style. I just focus on these 4 or 5 as the most important. And I give you an example of the elevator pitch right at the beginning that, hey, in my style, characters are mortal, combat's deadly, it's okay to run. I'm going to telegraph danger. There's going to be clues. So again, you can leverage your player skill to avoid that kind of stuff. I do want you to immerse yourselves in the world. I care a lot more about immersion than maybe the mechanics. And lastly, I'm an explore the world kind of referee. And so that XP for treasure really rewards exploration. The players making choices and their decisions is how they're going to advance in my style of game. So what would a pitch look like if you were sort of the complete opposite of me? Maybe someone who's running adventure paths and scripted adventures. Okay, first off, they may have totally different circles. An elevator pitch for this style might be something like this. My games are about epic quests where your characters will go on like long, satisfying narrative arcs. We frequently use published materials or hardback books, and adventure paths. I want you to bring to the campaign characters that fit the setting first and foremost and have meaningful backstories because I get excited about working those into our campaign arc. And I think I get the sense that a lot of modern players in 5e referees fall into this world. Like these are the kind of things that excite them the most about sitting down to play. So, where does this leave us with a simple definition of referee style? Actually, stylistically, it's really close to where Matt and Dottie started in their video. Something like beyond setting, system, mechanics, your style are those things that the principles of running the game that excite you. So you build them into your campaign, into your sessions, and how you run the game. Pretty simple. All right, this is a quick one. What I'd love to do now, I know that there's a lot of people watching this video who don't share my view on referee style, but I've armed you with what you need to develop your own elevator pitch. I would love to see in the comments some of your elevator pitches. Like, how would you describe your referee style in, I don't know, just a couple sentences or something? I do want to talk about my OSR origin story at some point in the near future, because again, it's very funny and launched me on my path, but I've also been dying to talk about a mega dungeon, and it's time to bring some mega dungeon talk to my channel. So that's probably something I'll do next. And yeah, my OSR origin story will be in the queue. All right. Thanks for being here, everyone. See you next time.